Successful people learn how to make their mind work for them. I'm David Nagel, and this is the Successful Mind Podcast. Now, the last four and the next four are all coming from Raymond Holliwell's book, Working with the Law. And somebody asked me the other day, why was I choosing to end with working with the law? And there's a reason for it. The reason is primarily this, that after everything is said and done, it comes down to how we work with the laws of the universe. And it is a never-ending study for the student that is always trying to improve themselves. So it's not so much about finding new material on a consistent basis, but as you grow, you come back to material that is steeped in truth, and you see something in it that you didn't see before. It's not that it wasn't there before, it's just that you couldn't see it from the level of growth that you were at before. So, we are going to get moving on here with working with the law. And there's a quote that he has before the chapter begins. He says, "The Lord God made the earth and the heavens and every plant and field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew." That was from Genesis 2, 4, and 5. And what is he saying there? Why did he put that there? He put it there basically to say that everything that is to be already is and has been created. So the idea that we come from a place of want or lack really should be false to us, because there is no such thing. You can't have a desire without the thing currently being here. He says the question that is uppermost in the world of thought today is whether a man has the capacity, equipment, and the power to control his life, whether he can be what he wants to be, or whether he is a drop in the great ocean of life. Millions are affected by unemployment, poverty, and want. Can they help it? Where we have thousands of homes broken on the rocks of matrimony, can such a breach be repaired? Millions complain of sickness and disorder in countless forms. All this gives rises to the belief that we are victims of circumstance over which we have no control. Such belief makes us fatalists and karmic addicts instead of masters and controllers of our destinies. A fatalistic belief is contagious, and when man submits to its influence, believing that the circumstances around him are stronger than the power within him, that man is defeated before the race is run. So in other words, he's already a victim before he even thinks about what he can possibly accomplish going forward. In the history of the race and the biography of man, there is a long list of evidences of man overcoming circumstances and meeting his problems of life. Evolution and anthropology alike furnish the truth that man is responsible for what he is. He has the power to control his circumstances, and by using his power, he has created other circumstances more necessary in his upward climb. Yet some, not sure that we create our circumstances, are rather prone to think that they are caused by hereditary, karma, environment, and numerous other external things. These are real reasons they think for our failures. They believe in the natural limitations of life. They live in the conviction that as we are, so must we remain. They are sure that what is to be will be. The scientist, on the other hand, searching into the mysteries of human life, reveals to us a wonderful world of power, possibility, and promise. He tells us that the mind is the creative cause of all that transpires in the life of man, that the personal conditions are the result of man's action, that all the actions of man are the direct outcome of his ideas, and that we never make a move of any kind until we first form some image or plan in the mind. Now, what is true about this is that is both positive and negative, right? Because we are creative beings, we first have to have an image in the mind of whatever it is that we're creating. So if we're creating something in our life that we don't want, it's because we're holding an image in our mind of what we don't want. If we're consciously creating what we do want, it's because we're holding an image in our mind of what it is that we do want. He goes on to say that these plans or ideas are powerful, potent. They are the cause of good and bad or indifference of the following effects, which in turn correspond to their natures. He tells us that these ideas liberate a tremendous energy. Hence, when we learn to employ our minds constructively, we use correctly these hidden powers, forces, and faculties. This, the scientist tells us, is the key to success in living life. There are marvelous inner world that exists within man, and the revelation of such a world enables man to do, to attain, and to achieve anything he desires within the bounds or limits of nature. I believe the reason the famous English literary genius William Shakespeare is a leading dramatist of the world lies in this realm. The great Greek dramatists, with their noted insight, always saw the causes of some external fate or destiny that brought about the downfall within their characters. But Shakespeare saw something within the man as the cause of his failure or success. The fault, dear Brutus, is not in our stars, but in ourselves, that we are underlings. We see Hamlet wrestling with his reluctant, indecisive soul. Macbeth is being pulled and driven by his ambition. Othello is torn and discomforted by his jealousy. Always the characters were battling with their inner selves as though the dramatists were saying, "You are the master of your circumstance. Call forth your power, initiative, and ingenuity, and be the master. Fate is in your hands. Determine it. If every man has the power and privilege to determine his fortune, what is that power? How can we recognize it? If all the conditions are the result of our actions, and all the actions are the outcome or the fruit of our ideas, then our ideas must determine the conditions in our daily lives. And any idea is a thought or a group of thoughts. An idea is an image or a picture in the mind. There must have been an idea, a mental picture back of every well-known achievement and invention. From the beginning of its creative plan, we read in the first book of the Bible that the great architect God saw a finished pattern or an idea before it grew. There was a mental picture established within the mind of the Creator before it became the reality on the without, in some form of a creature. It says, "The Lord God made the earth and the heavens and every plant of the field before it was in the earth, and every herb of the field before it grew." Every architect and builder follows the same plan, whether he's building or planning a house, a bridge, an institution, or his own life. Every man is his own designer and builder. Like the Creator, he makes his creations within before they materialize on the outside. All fears of sickness, poverty, and old age are impressions, ideas, and mental pictures long before they can become painful realities. Now, think about that. Maybe you should make a list of everything in your life that you would consider a painful reality up to this point in time in your life. And then ask yourself, what image might you be holding in your mind? What belief might you be considering in your heart that would continually create this image in your life? Because when you see the correlation there, you can break the cord that connects the two. Every idea and mental picture must produce after its own kind. Whether the picture is good or bad, the law determines it so. The law does not question or challenge the kind of picture that we give it. It only knows that it must take what it is offered or planted and then proceed to materialize it into a visible form. Some men can visualize great engineering achievements, yet they do not know that by the same method they can overcome their diseases and despairs and enjoy the health and happiness they long for. Mechanical engineering is the same as mental engineering. They are both dependent wholly upon the creative intelligence. Mental photography, like mechanical photography, produces exactly what it sees. A picture of a homely, unsightly person never turns out to look like a beauty pageant winner, nor does a little short person look tall and large on the photograph. A picture of black will not be white, neither can a negative, destroying ideas produce constructive or positive results. If the ideas are negative, they will in turn create negative results. I knew a woman who once lived in a beautiful home in an exclusive suburban district with every comfort that wealth could supply to make her happy. Now, this home was a large rambling house facing a beautiful lake with green terraces sloping to its edge. Flower gardens, perfectly kept, were scattered freely along each path throughout the estate. She had many servants to help her, and from observation, her life was just about as complete as one might dream about. But with all this wealth and beauty, the woman was heard to remark to her friends that she hoped the day would come when she would be relieved of this big house and all of its problems could live in a trunk. She wanted a room to herself, for herself, and just large enough to move about without any extra space and dust to keep it clean. A few years elapsed. Her husband died and left the estate to her. She sold the home at a sacrifice. Her other holdings depreciated so much in value through unwise investments and transfers that she had but a small income left. She went to live with her sister, and true to her wish, she now had a small room on a third floor, practically lives in a trunk. Whether she is happier now than before, I don't know, but I doubt it. One thing I do know is that she gradually led herself to the small room and privations when her consciousness began to grow small and limited. She unconsciously touched the creative principle and supplied it with ideas of smallness and privacy and limitation which materialized within a few years' time. As we assimilate in the mind these ideas or mental pictures, we knowingly or unknowingly exercise a power to produce them. This creative process continues to work night and day until the idea is completed. We cannot picture thoughts of poverty, failure, disease, and doubt, and expect in return to enjoy wealth, success, health, and courage. It just can't be done any more than the photographer can take a beautiful picture of a homely creature. This creative principle is summarized in a sentence found in Proverbs. It reads, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." You may have read or heard this statement before. It may be taught and expounded by philosophers of every age. You may have tried to prove the statement by writing from your memory all negative thoughts, but because it took determined and persistent effort, you wearied. Then you dropped back into the current of old conditions and ideas and, if anything, became worse off than before. Others hearing this statement were not impressed, for they could not accept the assertion that all inharmonies of life are the result of their own beliefs, or of their past thinking crystallized into beliefs. They prefer to blame this upon something or something else. Even God is given share of blame. There are others who believe that in God's good time all things will eventually work out to their satisfaction, but this is not so. These people are planning for heaven to be gained at some future time when it is actually a condition and state of mind that can be had now as well as hereafter. The fact, unless it is gained here and now, it can never be had in the future. At some time in a man's life, he is forced to reckon with this creative law. There is no alternative. Everyone is governed by the law, whether he knows it or not. Now, possibly, it is the same idea that some have concerning prayer. They think it's God's fault, will, or desire when they do not get the answer they seek. They use God as their scapegoat and excuse when their prayers are unanswered, or when they're unable to explain some act of God or nature. God's will be done, is one of the most overworked and understood statements of our day. Some use the idea as a crutch to lean upon, when in reality it is a powerful bridge over which man may cross the deepest chasms and mysteries. It is man's failure of his prayers that are unanswered. The creative law is ever ready to answer and cannot fall into or fail to respond when approached rightly and wisely. At the moment that a man is able to contact and to realize the law, he will at once enjoy the benefits. It is the realization of the law in action that determines manifestation. Now, I want you to think about this for a second. I'm going to read this one more time. At the moment, in an instant, when the awareness comes, it's all saying the same thing. At the moment that a man is able to contact and to realize the law, he will at once enjoy the benefits. It is the realization of the law in action that determines manifestation. That is awareness, folks. That's exactly what it is. So it's, in other words, when we realize the power in this law and that the law is governed by how we think, and how we think determines the results that we have or what we manifest into our life. And when we apply that so we see how it actually works, everything changes. An electrician, for example, does not pray and wait for electric energy to make up its mind to serve him. He learns firsthand the laws of conduction and transmission in order to know how to cooperate with the law that governs electric energy. Now, after gaining this knowledge, he can go ahead, set up the machinery which provides the means to generate and direct the power. Then he can snap in a switch and operate giant machines, create heat, set in motion countless other devices, or flood a room with light. He can do this not once or twice, but as many times as he chooses, so as long as he does not disturb the machines or violate the law governing the energy. The same principle holds true in all other sciences, including the science of mind. There is a scientific way of thinking about everything, a true and right way that prevents the needless waste of mental energy and produces desired results on all occasions. As explained, all things and events, all experiences and conditions of life are results. All results, however, will vary in quality and quantity in accordance with the degree of knowledge possessed and in the measure of the mind's activity. The quality of the results produced by the individual thinker may be good, bad, or indifferent. As may be determined by the conscious direction and choice or lack of such, some results being harmonious and favorable, while others discordant and unfavorable, or they may be mentally and of the whole. It is absolutely essential to give intelligent direction to the creative powers of the mind and to obtain the best and largest results in our particular sphere of active expression. In fact, it is highly important from the standpoint to use fullness and common duty that which we should endeavor to understand the mind and its workings, and learn how to cultivate and develop those processes of thinking that will give us mastery over life and its conditions. Thinking is a perpetual process. It's a creative function of life that is ever going on. We are engaged in it and are producing results of some kind every hour and day that we live, registering within ourselves the exact effects of all our thinking. While we cannot stop thinking, yet we possess the supreme privilege of being able to determine the sort and the results it is desired to experience by regulating the form and quality of our thought. In other words, our brain is something we think with. It's an electronic instrument that not only can produce images of any kind that we use by the use of our imagination, but it can transmit those images across all time and space to bring us the manifestation of what we desire. He says, how this is done in a simple and effective manner is explained throughout all of the lessons in working with the law. Our main object is to arouse the individual to think for him or herself, to cultivate his own powers, and thereby to take the sure path of self-development and true culture. The great self-evident fact, which cannot be too often repeated, is that when we change our thinking for the better, we automatically change our lives for the better. Modern psychology has conclusively demonstrated that a change of thought must precede every change in the life and in the affairs of the person. In the course of our studies, we have discovered that the more a mind is undeveloped, the more materialistic or lower its individual point of view, while the more developed the mind, the higher its individual point of view. It does not follow that because a person is worldly wise and retained a large number of facts or experiences, such one has a well-developed or highly evolved mind. On the contrary, that person may have an undeveloped mind to be largely dominated by the lower instinct. Narrowness of thought, limited views, prejudice, convictions, and materialistic opinions are signs of lack of any real development. Breadth of thought, wide and tolerant views, wholesome convictions, and expanding conceptions are signs of growth. A small mind, however, need not remain small or undeveloped. It can grow and expand and ultimately become great. The path is clear and it's simple. Let such a one form his own life in clear conceptions and strong convictions from the loftiest point of view that he can reach, and then proceed to think and act accordingly. So basically what he's saying there is that you want to create an image in your mind of the life that you want without having any idea of how you're going to get there. That is not the point. The point is not how you're going to get there. That's God's job. That's not your job. Your job is to create the image of whatever it is that you want. He goes on to say that advancement will follow as a natural sequence. In other words, we're going to grow because of that. Once we build the image, then we step into what that vision dictates must happen. The law is the mind. The law is that the mind is no greater than its conceptions. As you improve and enlarge your ideas and mental picture, you improve and enlarge your mind. As you aspire to realize the larger truth, you must inevitably grow in understanding. Again, the greater your power of mind, the better you will be able to conduct the affairs of life to use to an advantage. Next, we may ask, if there is such a law of mind, what is the law's intention? Some may think that the universal mind has no intention because it's impersonal. Yet Jesus tells us that the universal mind has definite intentions. He says, "Fear not, little flock, it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom." Thus we see that the universal mind's intention is for the universal good. Therefore, our intention must take the same direction, knowing whatever works for the universal good will work for the individual good, for the individual's health and happiness, on this same principle. The principle that which blesses the whole will bless all of its parts. When our intention becomes reconciled or cooperative with the universal intention, then we become an expression of that good. Isn't that cool? This is working with the law. When man's intention is as God's intention and not just a mere personal caprice, a force is called into action which gives direction to the undirected mind power. Working with the law, when we understand it, may become as simple as touching the light button. But the electrician, which when we do, floods our mentality with illumination and understanding. We hear much today about corporation, united effort, merging of forces, pulling together as a single team or a unit. We know the advantage of teamwork in our games and sports at play. We learn from our games that no grandstand play or individual show-off is dependable. It is likewise true with the game living of life. No man can play the game alone. He must conform with the law, and it is better to cooperate than it is to be used blindly by it. Someone said, Man, with himself as a partner, is a fool, but with God or the law is a majority. Thus, when man is able to combine or direct all his thoughts, ideas, and desires for good, he will be able to bring forth a continued stream of good. Again, referring to the Master and appreciating all the work and miracles he accomplished, we see that he never took personal credit for the results. He knew the law, and by working with it, he was able to perform miracles to his amazement of the unenlightened public. He said, "It is not me, but the Father, or the law in me, that doeth the work. Thus all things work together for them that love good, live the law, because the love of good unites itself with a stream of good, and not because good steps out of the way to show its gratitude. All failures in life are due to taking sides with the infinite around us. All success in life is due to taking sides with the law within us. Thus, working with the law may be considered the same as taking the law into our minds and lives as a silent partner. We are then conscious of the source and creator of all power and realize and receive the many benefits that surround us. You who are searching and grasping any and every idea that comes along in hopes that it will be a shortcut method to solve the problem of your life, you who condemn and blame every misunderstood person or thing for your failures and defeats will never find a satisfying life that way. You will only find an existence, and at its best, it will be variable and changing. Life with all its attributes of good is a something that doesn't just happen to touch a fortunate few. It is a something that you must create. It is a something that you must plan. Mentally picture and think about you who are seeking love, fortune, happiness, success. Must understand that it is not something you may find. You cannot buy it or borrow it from another. No one can give it to you. You must create it within yourself. Your desires and ideas are like seeds that you plant in the soil, but these are planted in the soil of the mind. After planting the thought seeds, you cultivate them, nurture them, and guard them until the harvest time. Then you will reap all that they have sown, and you will do it abundantly. Of course, he who has the cleanest and the most fertile garden will enjoy the best returns. We may realize from this lesson that we have the capacity, for we can think, and in our thinking create desires and ideas. We have the equipment. It compromises the ideas and the thought seeds that we plant in the soil of the mind. We have the power, for the universal power of the mind is endowed within each and every one of us. All that we may ever desire to have and to be is actually ours for the asking, as we correctly apply the law of life, the law of mind. When a circumstance arises, we do not come under it to submit to its servitude, but we are surmounted by it to overcome and master it by exercising the creative law of thinking, and thus grow in the wisdom and the power. For as Dr. John Murray so often said, we are according to a system of ideas.
Thanks for listening to the Successful Mind podcast. And if you like what you heard and you want to know more, go to davidnagel.com/free stuff.